When I first began consuming cannabis, it was initially for fun, but then the older I got, the more burdensome and painful the experience of consuming cannabis became. And I think that was true for, I guess, about 6 different reasons. Common reasons that I've identified with helping hundreds, if not thousands, of other people overcome cannabis substance use disorders. Reason number 1, I think as you get older, your values change. When I first started smoking weed, I was in college, and my values were to pass class, party, try and get laid on the weekends, and have as much quote unquote fun as possible. As I got older, my values changed. I started to value my physical health more. I started to value significant relationships over one night stands. I started to value my finances and my career and my ability to make money. And as I got even older, over the age of 30, I eventually started to value having a family. I valued being able to take care of that family and provide for them. So I think one of the major things that happens to people is when they first start smoking weed, chances are they have a different set of values than they're going to have, say, 5 or 10 years down the line. And cannabis simply no longer fits into that new set of values. The next major thing that I noticed changed for me was my responsibilities. When I was consuming cannabis in college, like I said, it wasn't that big of a deal. I didn't have a lot of bills to pay. I didn't have a family to support. I didn't have a house mortgage. I didn't have, my child's education. I didn't have a ton of responsibilities. But the older I got, the more I did advance in my career, in my family life, in my relationships, the more responsibilities I started to take on. House payment, car payment, right? Healthcare expenses, the responsibility of maybe if you have children or a husband or a wife, caring for your family. And as my responsibilities changed, cannabis no longer fit into achieving or accomplishing the things that I had to accomplish in my life, my responsibilities, my day-to-day activities. Sitting home and getting high was no longer a productive use of my time. In fact, it was actually very counterproductive, and that started to damage my career, my finances, my physical health. And once all those things became damaged from cannabis substance use, it was actually harder to fulfill my day-to-day responsibilities. Thirdly, I think your goals change, or at least they should, right? When I look back when I first started consuming cannabis in my early 20s, I had a very different set of goals at that point in my life. I wanted to get through college. I wanted to try and, hook up with, girls on the weekends. And, that was really it. That was really just sustain basic life functions, right? My goal was to get to the next party, the next binge drinking event, the next bar, right? Hang out with my friends every weekend. I didn't really have a lot of goals. But as I started to get older, and as I started to realize just how competitive this world is, I started to think to myself, like, okay, I need a different set of goals. And now I have different goals, right? I have goals of taking my family on vacations. I have goals of being able to put my son through whatever school it is he wants to go through as we get older. I have goals of maintaining really good physical and mental health so I can be there for my family, so I can show up fully present in my career. I have all these different goals now than I did when I was younger. And look, it's financial goals, it's spiritual health goals, it's mental health, it's physical health goals, it's family goals, right? Goals aren't just in the realm of financial success, but financial success does tend to drive a lot of those other goals. It gives you access to more healthcare, it gives you access to the ability to go do more stuff. Consuming cannabis for a lot of people is not going to aid in the achievement of those goals. And then what winds up happening is people will be doing pretty good, but they'll be saying to themselves, darn, I thought I would have been further along by now. I know that was the case in my experience by the time I was in my early 30s. I quit around 27, 28 years old, and I was doing like good, right? Like private practice, doing good, had a few different businesses, definitely wasn't at rock bottom, but just deep down, I was like, darn, I really thought I would have achieved more. I had every opportunity to. Why didn't I? And it was very clear to me that cannabis consumption was starting to stand in between me and my goals. Another thing that's hopefully changed as you've gotten older is your environment, right? Back when I was in college, living with my roommates, smoking weed, watching scary movies on a, cozy winter night, trying to hook up with the girl next to me or whatever, right? That environment was very conducive to cannabis substance use. But as you get older, as you mature, chances are your environment is going to change. Your work environment's going to change. Your family environment's going to change. Your living environment, going from a college dorm room to an apartment to a single family home, your environment is going to change. And as your environment changes, maybe you do get married, maybe you do have kids, maybe you do have to travel for work, whatever it is, chances are it's no longer that conducive to smoking weed and getting high every day. But if you're trying to force cannabis substance use into your current environment, despite the fact that you've matured, despite the fact that you're no longer 20 years old, hanging out with the guys, hanging out with the girls, going out to the bars, that experience is going to be a painful experience because you're trying to put something that doesn't fit into your environment into your environment. And then that creates pain, that creates stress, that creates anxiety. And the ironic thing is, and I've learned this and I've talked about this to like literally hundreds of clients, helping them quit cannabis, we then will consume cannabis because we're stressed, because we're anxious, because we feel some type of way about our environment, when in reality it's like, wait a minute, is the reason you feel so uncomfortable in your environment because you're forcing something, consuming cannabis, that no longer fits. And a lot of people, for them, they're like, oh yeah, that's maybe the light bulb moment. I tell people too, another thing on environment, as you get older, you go through different chapters in life. And cannabis is an incredibly insidious drug, right? I had told myself time and time again, I'm going to quit before grad school, and then I didn't quit. Then I smoked all throughout earning my chiropractic doctorate degree, right? Smoked all throughout that, never quit. I'm going to quit once I start private practice. I'm going to quit once I get this significant relationship. I'm going to quit after this vacation or holiday or whatever. And then people don't quit. They don't quit. They don't quit. And cannabis is insidious and how it sneaks into that next chapter in your life, that new environment of your life. And then it kind of like a weed just spreads its roots and hits everything that you care about. This is at least what cannabis substance use was for me. And if it's something that you're kind of relating to while you're watching this, I want you to check out that link real quick in the pinned comment or that link in the video description to learn about our one-on-one addiction recovery coaching programs where I work with you to help you quit. Now, another thing that's going to change in life is not only the environment, but also your relationships, right? Maybe it was seeking more casual relationships when you were younger, but now you're looking for more meaningful, deeper relationships. And cannabis may no longer fit those things. And I think you have to ask yourself too, what type of person, what type of relationship is it that you either A, want to be maintaining that you're currently in, or B, that you want to get? Because chances are you're going to attract the energy that you put out. So if your energy is consuming cannabis all day long, binge drinking on the weekends, hanging out with the guys, if you're a female, going out with the girls to the bars, you're going to attract a similar type of energy. Even if you're a working professional, a business owner, in really, really good shape, it doesn't matter. You're going to attract the energy you put out. So what are you looking for in your relationships? Are you looking for something superficial? Because substance use, your relationship with the substance it tends to be a very superficial thing, right? There's no real deep connection that you get out of having a relationship with a drug. And I know for me, that then spilled over subconsciously into my actual relationships. Or do you want something more meaningful? As your relationships change, chances are so is your relationship with cannabis or nicotine or alcohol or whatever the substance is that you're dealing with. Now, lastly, and I think this one's really important for anyone over the age of 30, is your physical health. As you get older, your kidney, your livers, your muscles, your joints, your body, your lymphatic system, your nervous system, everything slowly starts to decline as we get older. That's just the way it is. So a lot of times when you're younger, consuming cannabis, and I'm only talking about physical health, not mental health or brain development, doesn't have the same detrimental effects it does to us physically as we get older. As you cross over the age of 30, it's harder for your lungs and your heart and your respiratory system and your cardiovascular system to detox all of that stuff, all of that smoke, whether you're doing joints or vapes or whatever it is you're doing. Your liver slows down its ability to detox and process THC into its metabolites. Your kidneys naturally slow down as you get older. Your requirement for sleep doesn't increase. It's highest when you're younger, so you got to be careful. But sleep becomes very, very important. When you're young, you could stay up for 24 hours and not think much about it. At least I could throughout high school and college. When you get older, you actually need that rest. Maybe not as much rest, but you need rest, or it's almost impossible to function the next day. Okay? People's health changes as they get older. And if this is something we neglect, you really wind up paying for it later on in life. One of my favorite things to share with people that I realized in my own recovery and becoming recovered from cannabis substance use is the decisions you make today are going to impact how you live your life tomorrow. And that's especially true of the physical health consequences that you may stand to face from cannabis substance use and mental health, maybe even more so mental health. And how you behave today, whether you smoke today or don't smoke today, smoke tomorrow or don't smoke tomorrow, that's going to impact what you're doing when you're 40, 50, 60 years old. And look, for me, this is what I want to be doing. I want to be energized. I want to be working. I want to be helping people. I want to be traveling with my family and taking them to see new places around the world. I want to be in good enough physical health to do that with them. I don't want to have to be worried about going on vacation because I'm not healthy, because, can I bring cannabis to this country with me, or do I got to try and buy it from the valet guy or the, waitress or waiter on the boat, or however you travel, right? I made a decision a long time ago that wasn't how I wanted to live the rest of my life. And if that's a decision that you want to make today, you can check out that link in the video description or the pinned comment. I put like a little training in there talking a little bit more about my story and some of the people that I've helped quit consuming cannabis products once and for all. All right, until next time.